Hey guys, it's ANicWin, also known as Amy, and happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a lovely day. This is a cottage here in Windenburg, and as you can tell from the title of the video, it is called Lyttle Cottage, and Lyttle is spelt with a Y. Now, two disclaimers. I need to say them up front or I'll forget. One, this was built prior to cottage living being released, so there are no items or assets or anything on this property that are any way affiliated with cottage living. I am not going to go back and add elements, but it'd be really easy to add them if you want to download this and kind of change a few things out. I left it as is because I like the original design. The second thing I'm going to say is Lyttle, the misspelling of Lyttle is not me being cheeky or having a play on words moment. It's actually called that because the sim that's going to live here, that is his family name. His name is Charlie Lyttle, and it's Lyttle spelled with a Y. And I'm imagining that this is a cottage that has been in his family for generations. And so he doesn't own this, but he's living here until he's kind of on his feet. So my intention with this one is that I wanted it to look like there were just a bunch of random things that still kind of go together that were clearly owned by people before. Maybe they moved in, they bought something, but they left it for the next resident or tenant that was going to live here. That was kind of my thought process, and I didn't want it to look overly feminine. I didn't want it to look overly masculine. I just wanted it to look kind of not even magical. That's not even fair to say. I wanted it to look well loved. Like, people have definitely been here. There's a history, but people have taken care of it over the years. This isn't something that's fallen to neglect or anything like that. Now, this is a 16-minute video, like 16 minutes 22 seconds, and most of this is exterior. I'm not gonna lie to you. The interior is a 1-bedroom 1-bathroom cottage with a fairly small living space, and the bedroom is a single bed. It's not even a double bedroom. I couldn't make it work for two reasons. One, I'm a little bit lazy and I had already done the exterior and I didn't want to shuffle things around. I'm going to be fully transparent. I just didn't want to do it, couldn't be bothered. And for two, this isn't something that Charlie owns, so I didn't feel that it was necessary to make it be big enough to be able to start a family or expand in any way. Does that make sense? Like, I wanted him to be just a little bit uncomfortable so that he would move. Like, that's the motivation. Like, you're here, you have this place, you do have some security in it, but this is not where you're gonna stay forever. So don't get any ideas, sir. That was my thought process. So it fit my storyline. But if you want to play with this and you want it to be a double bedroom, you could add the Murphy bed. I thought it looked a little too modern for what I was going for. But you could also just kind of shuffle some plants to the left and extend the bedroom by a tile. You really only need a single tile, and it would work just fine. So you have options. You do have the ability. I made the decision not to do it. It is what it is. It is what it is. So I'm adding the plants here. I do kind of create this walkway. I line it in its entirety. I don't always do this, but I have been doing this more often than not here lately. I just really like the way that it looks, and I like the idea that it kind of guides you in a specific direction. But your Sims will walk right through those plants, so it's not like you're like hemmed in and you can't get to other areas of the yard, although I do give them a porch with a side door, so there's multiple access points, I guess is what I'm saying. Just for routing issues, you never know. You want to have a plan B when you're playing with the Sims, or at least that's something I try to do, just because you never know. It takes one update to kind of ruin the whole thing. Just being honest. So I do line the interior of the fenced-in area with those bushes. I don't line the exterior just because it looks like a hand-built rock wall, and I thought maybe like his great-great-grandfather did that, and it's just been lovingly maintained over the years, and I kind of wanted it to shine a little bit, and I really think it looks pretty. I think it adds some character to the build, so I wanted to make sure that I left that. Now the porch is fairly small. Both of the porches are small, and I left it that way. I don't add a whole lot of activities to the porches either. It's not someplace you're going to come and sit. I did that intentionally as well. I mostly just wanted to have a little bit of I didn't want both sides of the yard, I guess is what I'm saying, to be the same. So I wanted one to be definitely a little bit different from the other one. That is making no sense. I'm making a redundant statement there, but I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. So this is the garden plot section. I don't remember what all I planted, but I think there's onions, tomatoes, strawberries. There are 2 different green things. Can't remember what those are. I think carrots or potatoes, strawberries. I think I already said that. And apples. They're not all the same seasonal plant, so you'll have a few things that bloom each season. Maybe not winter. I can't remember. I can't remember now, but it's not the entire garden that you're going to be caring for the entire time. It's just a few plants. So I did do that with some intentional thought behind it. And I did go ahead and plant everything and water it. So when you download this from the gallery, there will be a few things already in bloom and ready to go. I'm doing my thing with the terrain paint. I plopped down this bucket. I honestly cannot remember what my intention with that bucket was, but I plopped it down, forgot about it, like completely spaced. And then when I went back to take screenshots, I saw it and thought it was hilarious because I can't remember why I pulled it out of the menu. Like, I don't know. There's nothing there. I have no clue. So feel free to delete it. I left it just because I thought it was hilarious that I just completely don't even know what the thought process behind that was. So that's just a nod to myself for being a little bit like spacey. I'm finishing up the front yard here. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of spaces to sit and stuff outside. There's definitely activities, but it's not like a leisurely place. I get, well, gardening can be leisurely, but it's not someplace you're just sitting and sun tanning and hanging out outside. I am building this. I think this is called a trellis. I honestly don't remember. I didn't want to add another roof piece or extend that roof piece because it looked a little too boxy, but I definitely wanted that to be covered in some way. This was my solution. I do add some plants and stuff around it to provide some shade. Of course, you could leave it open. If you don't like the look of the plants, you can get rid of them and leave the upper section open, and it still provides a little bit of shade and makes it look a little bit more finished than it would have if I just left it alone, which I almost did and was like, nah, it doesn't look right. And then I add a little grill out here. I add the umbrella rack and I add a trash can, and that's pretty much it for the porch. And I think it's cute. I really, really like the side porch, honestly. It's probably my favorite area of the build, which is so silly to say, but that's just how I feel. I don't know. I fall in love with specific sections of a build, and then there will be other sections where I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I don't like it at all. But it all, in my head at the end of the day, it all goes together. So I am happy with the builds, but I have definite favorites. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm finishing up this back section here. This wasn't wide enough to really do anything, so I threw down the clothesline and that wash bucket. If you don't want to play with laundry, you can just remove those, and honestly, you could leave that empty. It's just really a walkway. It's not really... I didn't leave enough space for anything in particular because I knew there wasn't going to be a back porch. I wanted this lot to be more centered. And then I'm picking out items here for the side yard. Onto the left side, I throw down the plant some stump because I wanted to leave that as an option for the storytelling. Like maybe he figures out what that does and it leads to a whole different adventure. I give the bee boxes because the honey cakes in the game are so cute, and the little bug boxes because I think you get fertilizer from them if I'm remembering correctly. I don't really like playing with those, but I always place them in the builds. They freak me out just a tiny bit. And then I'm just throwing down some more landscaping. I do a little bit more terrain painting. I add pathways. I always add pathways. It just makes the lot look a little bit better, in my opinion. When you add obvious footpaths, it is a little dark. I probably could have lightened it up just a bit, but I decided to leave it as is because it felt like, I don't know, it felt authentic. At the time. And I add a little bit of this pebble terrain paint over everything just to kind of break up that green. I don't like anything to be super bright green unless I'm doing a suburban home. I don't know why. I can't explain it. That's just my thought, I guess. Adding in a few trees. I did swap out that fire pit. The other one was from Island Living and it looked a little too tropical for the vibe that I was going for, and I believe that one is from Get Together, which fits because that's the world that we're in. And we should be moving on into the interior here. Oh yeah, I have to replace the mailbox. I do the floor planning off camera, even though it's a small space. It took me a little bit longer than I care to admit. And as you'll see, I am placing the furniture and not really decorating as I go first, just because I wanted to ensure that the layout was going to work for me. But I do go back and decorate, so don't worry. I tried to make this dream home decorator stove and range work. It doesn't. It just, maybe that's the same thing. Either way, it didn't work. It looked a little too modern, and so I landed on this base game gas stove. It's actually a wood burning stove, I believe, but not like the kind that I'm thinking of. Anyway, I landed on that because it looked appropriately old and it fit the vibe, so I went with that. I did briefly place this fireplace. It looked too modern. That does disappear. I replace it with something else. But yeah, so this is me piecing the living room together. Like I said, I didn't want it to look like everything went together. I think it still meshes, obviously, but I didn't want it to look like everything was bought at the same time. And I actually had a lot of fun picking out the different items, because I'm like, oh, this could have been like a cousin that had this could have been their grandfather's, this could have been like you know, the aunt that's like single forever and she's into like palm reading or something, which I think is called palmistry. And as you can see, I was placing items without any flooring or wallpaper. I didn't know what the color scheme was going to be. So I was like, well, I'll place the items I want and then figure out what the rest of it looks like, which is not something I usually do, but I did this time. It just felt right. I don't know. I go with how I feel at the time of the build. And yeah, and I really like the color scheme in here. I went with this kind of mint. I think mint's a green color. It could be blue. I don't know, but I went with this one because it kind of sparked joy, especially with that lighter wood tone that was kind of going on. It just looked like it was a nice pop of color that you may not necessarily expect. Like typically when you have a lighter wood tone, the pops of color I think are usually in like the warmer tones area. But I like that cool tone vibe, man. What can I say? I just enjoy it. And then this is where I'm really starting to kind of clutter up the space and make it look a little bit more lived in, a little bit more personalized within the parameters of my story, at least. And I actually really like this kitchen. I think it's small and cute enough that, like, I don't know, I would enjoy making meals in here for one. You definitely could not create a family meal. Well, the Sims can, but like in real life, feasibly, it would drive you insane. But cooking for 1 or 2 people would be, I think, a delight here. That's just me, though. So I add that casserole dish to the stove. I tested everything, and no matter what meal I chose, I didn't have any routing issues with the stove at all. So I like the look of that. I think it looks like they just pulled a casserole right out of the oven and they're letting it cool on top of the stove. But if you don't like that there, you can move that over somewhere or just delete it. But like I said, it doesn't cause any routing issues, so it shouldn't be a problem. Now I'm placing this rug and another rug. I like to layer them, and they looked a little modern, so I do move on for a second to see how I sit with it, and I actually end up replacing those, so just kind of ignore that. I do it on camera. I'm kind of decorating the little entertainment space, and then this is me trying to figure out if I can layer maybe a couple of rounded rugs with this woven one, and the woven one just hid them, so I ended up getting rid of that, and I just keep the kind of creamy rounded rugs in the living space. And I like it, even though it kind of blends in with the floor. I think it worked out well. Now, guys, I usually say I don't like my bathrooms. This ended up being my favorite bathroom that I think I've ever done. It's very simple. It's as always, but I like the color palette. To me, that's an orange. It could be pink. I don't know. Full disclosure, can't tell. But it's like an orange and blue kind of theme. It looked, I don't want to say cozy, but this looked like the kind of place that I would feel comfortable getting ready in, I guess. And I got to use the fox in the sweater picture. I've not used that swatch of that painting yet, and so I was thrilled. It sparked all the joy. I actually squealed a little bit. I was like, yes, because I like it. I've just never been able to use it. And then this is the bedroom. So this is actually where I'm going to leave you guys here, just because this is the end of the build. As always, feel free to let me know what you think down below. You can leave a like, a comment, you can subscribe if that's something that would spark joy for you. I will post the screenshots on Instagram as per usual, and this will be available for download in the gallery. I will see you next Wednesday when I post my next video, and in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely day and a lovely rest of your week. Bye, guys.
said, let me tell you everything I've seen, the friends I've made, and then you tell me how you've been. Look a little closer, it's been quite some time. You gotta let me know if I'm out of line. But there's some words that I just wanna hear you say, to put it all straight before this night turns into day, and then I'm on my way. Yeah. Yes, I'm on my way. A bit naive and so eager to please. You know I played for love, but it got me on my knees. Now's the time to reap what I've sown. Your words echoing in every single bone. Underwater and so far out at sea, there's no cure